guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna make a summer dress, a flowy big summer dress that you can see in the background. I already made a mock-up. My last couple of projects kind of all were corset related, or somewhat, you know, in that realm of design, I guess. And on one hand, corsets are amazing. I love making them. But on the other hand, they're very time consuming and very difficult to make. So I wanted to do something that is not corset related at all. It's quite the opposite actually. And on a more beginner friendly level, I would say beginner to advanced. And we're gonna make this really cute, very voluminous, ruffled beach dress, I guess. I went ahead and bought this beautiful lilac cotton, which I wasn't sure if I want to do the cotton or the satin. I bought both of these options for this dress. That's why I ended up letting you guys vote which fabric you prefer, and you landed on the cotton. So it makes more sense anyways, as it's a summer dress and it's so hot out at the moment. We don't want to make anything out of polyester because that's just gonna make it worse. So let's go ahead and use cotton or linen or something similar like that. It makes so much more sense for a dress and design like this. So I went ahead and went with your suggestion, which is absolutely stunning. I love this color. We're matching today, so that's awesome. And yeah, let's get started. I already cut everything out and put interfacing on all of the pattern pieces that need it. I just need to convince Fluster to clean himself somewhere else and not down here on my ironing surface. And we're gonna start with putting the, I don't know if you can say the bodice, but like the main piece of the dress together, which is the front and the back. These are made to be 1.5 times the length of the yoke that is like right on top here. So we're gonna have to gather it down to size, and we're gonna do that in like one full panel. Basically, what we're gonna do is just put the side seams together, the back lace unfold like this. It's super long, and we're just gonna put the side seams together to have one continuous panel, and then we're just gonna gather from the button placket right here over the armhole. We're gonna gather the armhole as well all the way to the other side of the front, so to the other button placket seam. I'm gonna do that with a little trick with a needle and my normal presser foot. So I'm going to show you what to do there, and then you're going to gather by machine, because for some reason I lost my gathering foot. In my experience, gathering by machine is not enough anyway, so you're going to have to ease both lengths together anyways in the end. Obviously you can gather by hand to be like super exact, but I prefer just gathering by machine, and then once I pin both layers together, I'm going to make them fit together basically. So that's what I'm going to do here today, and I'm going to show you how to do that without a gathering foot and just your normal presser foot. You want to iron the seam allowance towards the back. And as you can see, I also overlocked the side seams, as this is a non-line garment, so you want to finish your inside seams, and you can just do that by overlocking. And now we're going to gather. I'm going to start gathering right here at the front. So basically what you want to do, you want to use your biggest stitch and kind of tighten the tension of your upper thread, and then once you sew, the fabric basically can't transport perfectly anymore, and it's like bunching up in the back of your presser foot, as it's also like it's higher in the back. Like the presser foot itself now sits diagonally towards the front, and there is room in the back where the fabric bunches up. Now with one finger, carefully, you want to hold your fabric in that space to gather and to make it also look more even. This is the result. I think it looks really, really nice and even, and we can go ahead and work with that now. And what I will be doing is to continue with the yoke, as I'm gonna have to ease this part into the yoke. So the yoke has two layers. One with no seam and one with a seam in the center back. That's going to be the inside. So you're going to have like one sitting on the outside and then another one sitting on the inside, making it sit better, have a bit more strength, and then also hiding all of the seams on the inside. And speaking of seams, we're going to have to sew the center back seam together right here, which we're going to iron open. There's no need to overlock this, as it's going to be hidden on the inside. And actually, if you were to overlock this, it's just going to bulk up and not going to look nice, so do not overlock this back seam here. This is the outside, the one with the interfacing, so this is going to sit like this. We can add both of these yokes to our gathered front and back. I marked my notch, the center notch right here, so that I can match it up with the one on the yoke. So this short piece right here is going to sit at the button placket, and then we have the center notch right here, and as you can see, it's not gathered enough, which was what I expected, so I'm just going to ease them together under the sewing machine. You can add pins to this section as well if that helps, and then this goes together with the corner here. And now right here you basically sew off the edge, and that's where the arm's eye starts. And now this seam right here is the back yoke seam. So this goes over the shoulder. You're going to find the shoulder notch right here into the back, and then this down here is the back yoke seam. So this corner goes together with this corner in the back. So if I were to lay it down like this, you can see how this forms the arm's eye here. So I'm gonna have to fold this down, put the corners together, right sides together, everything, and then I can pin the yoke onto the back piece like this. I marked the center back as well, which is gonna go together with the center back in the yoke. And then here for the front, it's the same as the other side. We're going to match up the button placket seam right here and the corner here. Like that, and now we're good to sew. I'm going to have the yoke on the other side so that I see how the gathers look and to adjust them while sewing. And now we can sew all three of the yoke seams together. And with the outer panel now on, we can basically just put the yoke that sits on the inside right on top of that seam, and you don't have to do that much work anymore as it's already gathered to size. You just pin it onto the inside of your dress. You're gonna do the front yoke seam here as well as the back yoke seam. And you don't have to overlock any of these seams as they will be covered by the yoke itself. Once you flip this right sides out, you can see that it is completely on the inside, and you're gonna have that first stitching line maybe visible on the inside of the dress. You can either take that out or just leave it. It doesn't really matter as it's on the inside. Now what you wanna do now is go ahead and lightly iron this so that the fold here and on the back seam and the other front seam is crisp, but you want to be careful not to flatten the ruffles. And you can decide if you want to add a top stitching line here to, keep everything in place or not. That's really a design question, and you can decide that for yourself. I think for my part, I'm going to add a top stitch here because the front lays on the bias, it kind of has to. So in order to prevent this from stretching, you can add a top stitching seam here, which I will do just for the sake of what I just mentioned. And I'm going to do that all around then anyways, like also on the back here. And with that done, we can now put the button placket onto the pieces here. We're just going to iron this in half as I did here. And we're going to prepare the button placket by also ironing the seam allowance of one side towards the inside. And with the button placket now prepared, or the button plackets now prepared, we can go ahead and put them onto our front piece here. And we want to have the non-iron side, this side right here, be right sides together with the inside of the dress, so like the wrong side basically. And you just want to match up this full length like this, and you're going to do the same on the other side. Just sew this at 1 centimeter. Now once that's sewn in place, you're going to iron the seam allowance into the button placket. Just be careful up here with the folds and ruffles to not iron them weirdly. And then you can just fold the prepared other side on top, give it another press, and then you can top stitch it in place. And that's one part done, which is the in-between, like the middle section basically. Let's continue with the collar. And for that we're going to need the inner and outer collar pieces, which look like this. And the difference between them is that the outer collar is a tiny bit bigger than the inner collar. That's why there are two sets of collars and not just one, because they vary just a slight bit, but that's an important slight bit. So let's put these pieces together, and we're going to put outer collar on outer collar band and inner collar on inner collar band. That's important that you stay within your outer and inner collar sets, because the outer collar is bigger than the inner collar, but the outer collar band is smaller than the inner collar band. And that's because you flip down your collar. Therefore, the outer collar, which you flip towards the outside, needs to be a little bit bigger than the inner collar, which sits on the inside. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm going to show you how to put everything together. Both of them obviously work the same, so I'm just going to show you on one set. So you're going to have a center front notch in the collar band right here, and then the collar itself only goes towards the center front. So you're going to find that the stitching line here in this corner ends right with this notch here. And now we can put the collar and the collar band together, and you're just going to sew from this point right here, which is at the center front notch in the collar band, all the way over the center back to the other side, also just at that point. And you're going to do the same exact thing for the other set of collar. Now you want to go ahead and cut towards the center front notch in the collar band to be able to iron correctly. You want to iron the seam allowance towards the collar stand, as that's where the most strength needs to be. You can pop out that seam allowance like this, and then just go ahead and iron like that. And just like that, you have your collar pieces put together. Now let's fuse the inner with the outer collar. For that, I want to go ahead and cut from the side towards the notch here as well, and kind of take out this rectangle so that I can tilt this open like this while sewing and have like no weird seam allowances over top each other. And before putting the two layers together, you want to fold the seam allowance at the neckline right here of the inner collar band towards the inside. That's just easier to put it onto the neck seam in the end. And now we can put both of these together. Now be aware that the pieces do not match up perfectly, as they're not supposed to. So as you can see now, I can just tilt this and open this, and then I know exactly where to sew, which is helpful. And here you can clearly see the difference of size. You just have to ease them together. And here you can see it as well, so you're just gonna ease them together. And now with that prepared, we can go ahead and sew from this point at the fold line all around the collar towards the other side right here. Let's cut down the seam allowance so that we can turn everything right sides out. I'm going to cut away the corners here at the collar and then cut it pretty drastically down to like 2 or 3 millimeters. And here at that corner as well, down to like 2 millimeters. Cut down that curve. Like that. And now we can go ahead and turn this right sides out. Now if you look closely, you notice that I sewed in some thread to the corner here. That's just going to help me turn everything right sides out nicer. It's also a thicker thread, so it's not prone to ripping. And I can just pop that edge out really nicely without having to use like any tools or whatever. And now we're gonna iron. So it's important for ironing to know a few things. As I said, the collar stand where we sewed the seam allowance on will sit on the outside. So this part right here is where the upper button is going to sit. This is going to be super visible, so we want to make sure to iron the seam allowance as it already folds, because that's how the pattern is made, towards the inside here. So like this. We're going to try to iron the ditch of the seam towards this side here. And for the collar, this is going to sit like this. It's going to fold down. So we want to do exactly the opposite. We want to have where the ditch is not visible in the collar band, we want to have the ditch visible in the collar. So there is going to be like this switch in this area here. And now basically the collar is already ready to get attached to our neckline. So let's do that. So what you want to do here is also, like the button placket, you want to attach the non-ironed side of the collar stand to the inside of your dress. So the yoke with the seam basically. You want to match up the center front here, and you're going to find your shoulder notch in the collar stand here as well. So match that up with the one in your front piece like that. And now let's sew from here to here. And if we flip this over the seam right here, you can see how it all comes together. And basically what we're going to do, we're just going to top stitch super closely to this edge right here and finish the collar seam like that. And with that, the collar is done. Look at that. Let's continue with, let's do the ruffles at the hem and then the sleeves last. It doesn't matter, you can do either or, so you decide. So to make the hem ruffles, we're gonna have to make these 4 panels into one loop. So we're just gonna put right sides together, sew the seam, overlock, and then iron it to one side, doesn't matter which one, until you have one continuous loop. Let's also go ahead and finish the hem. I'm gonna double fold and top stitch 5 centimeters using my hemming foot. And with the skirt hemmed, let's gather this to size. We're gonna do the same as for the other gathering up here. I'm just gonna put the needle in my presser foot and then just gather the hell out of this. And then we're gonna put it onto our piece right here. Okay, now I went ahead and marked the center of one panel. I just folded both seams on top of each other and then just marked the middle of that, because that's gonna be our center front. And our center front in our piece is right in the middle of our button placket right here. And this is now where you have to think a bit, because you want to have your button placket open towards the left side. So once you wear it, you want to be able to put your hands in from the left side, which means that the right side goes over top of the left side. And that's important now because the button placket is going to be sewed onto the hem ruffles on top of each other. So you want to basically fold it as it's supposed to, with the left side being open, and then you want to match that up with the center here like that. And now that's fixed in place, we can go ahead and also match up the center back. So we have 4 hem ruffles. What that means is that we also have no seam in the back. So I'm just going to grab the opposite point of our center front point that I just marked, which gets matched up with the notch in our back piece for the center back. Do the same for the side seam. So we're basically gonna go in between all of the seams. If you don't care about that, you can make your life way easier by just matching up the seams with each other, but then you're gonna have a center front seam, which is not that nice. So we're not gonna do that, and we're basically rotating the hem ruffle by 0.5. And as you can see here, it's not too far off with the ruffles anyway, so we can make it work easily. Okay, let's sew the seam. And last but not least, sleeve time. So for the sleeve you want to have an elastic that fits around this area here, so in the middle of your upper arm basically, and it should sit tightly around your upper arm, but not too tightly so that it doesn't hurt. And what you can do for the sleeve, in the pattern you're gonna find a line that is 3 centimeters higher than the hemline of your sleeve. You can put an elastic there and have like a little ruffle at the end, or you can hem your sleeve with the elastic, which is what I will be doing here. If you were to put it in that 3 centimeter line higher than the hem, you want to hem the sleeve first, then put your elastic in place, stretch and sew, and then, you know, continue the same as we're going to do here. But since I will be putting it into my hem itself, I want to measure a few things before I get started. So I want to have the center of my elastic marked, the center of my sleeve marked, and I'm going to place the elastic 5 millimeters higher than my raw edge, fold the raw edge on top of that so that it is covering the elastic, and fold it again. So basically double folding the hem as if I were to hem it normally. I'm gonna put a needle in here, and that's what I will be doing for the center here as well, so that while I'm sewing I can stretch this and it's gonna be invisible and like inside of the hem. Obviously I'm gonna help it lay correctly while sewing, but that's basically how I'm going to hem. I'm gonna stitch right here next to that fold line, and then we can continue on and like ruffle the arm's eye and close the side seam. And that's what this looks like. Now we can go ahead and put the gathering stitch into our arm's eye. So I have the 2 points, which are usually the back and front sleeve points, but we don't need that for this sleeve today. I put notches into these points, and I'm just gonna use my biggest stitch without back tacking and go around the arm's eye into the seam allowance, turn and go back so that I have a double gathering stitch. And then I'm gonna knot the bobbin thread so I'll be able to, you know, pull on it and gather it once we put it on the sleeves. Now let's close the side seam. So I'm going to put right sides together and close this small seam, and I'm also going to overlock it. And let's put the sleeve into the arm's eye. So before that I'm going to gather it a tiny bit so that it is a tiny bit easier, but I'm only going to gather to size once I'm actually pinning it in place. And I'm going to match up my shoulder point, which is right here, with the shoulder point in my yoke. Same to the side seam, matching both the sleeve side seam and the side seam of the dress up. And basically what I can do is go ahead and pin the sleeve onto my dress until I reach the point where the gathers start, because from then on I want to have an even gathering basically. And I can go ahead and sew the sleeve into the arm's eye and also overlock the seam. To iron the sleeve seam, it's best to use your tailor's hem, as you don't disturb the ruffles all around this dress. So I'm just gonna like kind of fold it over here and lightly iron or steam just to make the seam allowance sit in this direction. And now it's just a matter of putting your buttonholes and buttons on, and the dress is done. And that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I absolutely loved this project because it was so easy and I didn't have to, you know, think everything through 100%. Like, it was just a good workflow, I guess. So super, super happy with this dress. And I think I'm gonna really love it this summer because it's already 30 degrees out and I'm sweating. I'm wearing linen nevertheless, but still sweating. So maybe a flowy dress like this will help me. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and ring the bell so you will get notified every time that I post. I post on Sundays, so you can keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, if you haven't already, go ahead and follow my social media. Mine is linked down below. I am uploading loads of reels all about my projects, so that might be of interest to you. The most direct way to support me and keep videos just like this one coming is to head over to my Etsy store, where I'm selling a whole bunch of patterns, including this one. Direct link to that is in the description down below. And last but not least, a special thank you to my channel members. You can get exclusive benefits through the link in the description down below. So thank you so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you next Sunday. Bye guys! And for everybody who is still watching, I have a really cool gift for you. I am doing a giveaway over on my Instagram where you can win this dress custom made by me. I have 4 different colors you can choose from, sadly not this lilac anymore as I don't have enough fabric, but a lime green, a fuchsia, yellow and a white. The giveaway went live with today's video, and this thumbnail, hopefully I don't forget to put the direct link into the description box down below. All info on how you can participate are in the video description of that reel, so check it out and good luck, and leave me a comment if I should do stuff like that more often. So thanks and bye!